Welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the Simpson County Fiscal Court. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would, we're going to have a word of prayer, and then I'd ask you to join me in the pledge to the flag. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this day that you've given us. Lord, we thank you that we live in a land that we have an opportunity to vote and elect the people that lead us and guide us on a day-to-day basis. And Lord, we just thank you for your love, your mercy, and your grace that you've shown to us. And we just ask for your guidance and direction during this meeting. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on the agenda, we're glad to have with us today Circuit Judge Janet Crocker. She's wanting to address the fiscal court and discuss a little bit about jail population and a little bit of the justice system. So, Judge Crocker, we'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Well, I know I sound like a broken record every time I come to a fiscal court, but I would like to say one more time, thank you all for your continued support of our court operations in the Justice Center. As some of you all have heard me say before, without your support, as I said, the rain would still be pouring into our building right now. Our building had gotten into a significant state of disrepair, particularly because of the roof issues that we had, but also just some general lack of an efficient way to address the ongoing needs of maintenance and upkeep of that building. And as I said, that we continue to be very thankful to have billboards in our building part-time. As I said, we're about to finish up with respect to the building roofing project. As I said, that it's taken much longer than any of us had imagined that it would, but we are very satisfied with the quality of the work that's been done, and as I said, look forward to having our parking lots back open again. The reason why I'm here today is in response to an inquiry that Judge Barnes made of me with respect to what is contributing to this significant increase in the number of county inmates at the jail. And the short answer to that is, of course, is that it is the same issue with the rising costs and the burdens that the jail operations place on county budgets in this county as it is across the state, of course, across the country. We incarcerate a lot of people in response to a widespread and deeply rooted problem with substance use and abuse. In response to Judge Barnes' inquiry, I had meetings kind of one-off initially, first with the jail to try to identify where they were seeing the significant increase was coming from. In response to that, then met with our Commonwealth's attorney, our county attorney, and basically what we have done over the last 30 to 45 days is try to put some additional measures in place to try to simply streamline the process with which we are handling these cases. The primary driver is that we've got a significant increase in our number of felony drug cases. Historically, since I've been on the bench, we have averaged somewhere between 150 to 175 new felony cases across the board. And so that ranges from everything from your simple possession to your theft cases up to your sexual assaults and other crimes of violence. This year, we're right now at 400 plus. We anticipate by the end of this year, we'll have 500 new felony cases that we will open this year. So our felony caseload has quadrupled. It's tripled since over this past year. And of course, recognize that there is an initial screening process that takes place in the district court before those cases ever get to the circuit court. And I'll further note that neither the jail nor the courts have any control whatsoever on the number of the cases that are ultimately brought to us. If people are arrested on felony charges, ultimately they're going to be processed through our court system as efficiently as we can. But the whole system, as you might well appreciate, is really struggling to simply keep up with those numbers, from the jail to the clerk's office to pretrial services to probation and parole. The primary driver appears to be a significant uptick in what we refer to as simple possession cases. And the simple possession cases is that's where they are caught with some amount of drugs with no indicia of trafficking and no other felony offenses. So again, you may have a DUI where they find a crack pipe. That crack pipe contains some residue of methamphetamine. That case becomes a felony circuit court drug case. And so what we have initially done is in a meeting, again, this past week we had a meeting with the district judge, county attorney, commonwealth's attorney, pretrial officer, probation officers, and jail staff. And one of the things that we have initiated is an enhanced screening that's going to happen at the district court with respect to particularly the residue cases. Oftentimes, the charge in the residue cases is it's investigative because, of course, they're really looking for, law enforcement is really looking for the stash of drugs that are hidden on individuals' persons. And, sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. The other thing that we have done is that we have initiated a fast track processing of our simple possession cases. What some of you all may have heard other in some other counties doing now, other circuits, what's referred to as a rocket docket, a fast track, where you basically pull your drug cases. And in our case, we're only going to pull out the simple possession. We're not pulling out the trafficking cases. We're just pulling out the simple possession cases and moving those to a fast track, hopefully to move those cases forward sooner. The long-term benefit to that is that hopefully if we can get those cases processed sooner, use that as a mechanism to try to get people either under supervision and more particularly into treatment programs, that it may provide an intervention that prevents what is oftentimes a snowball effect with respect to our drug cases where, they get arrested, they have possession cases. By the time we get that one to the grand jury, they've got another one. And of course, the community is asking, well, what's that person doing? Why wasn't that person in jail? And the short answer is that we simply can't afford to hold the number of people that are in our communities that are smoking meth. We don't have enough beds to hold those people. And so what we're trying to do is to find a streamlined way to try to get those people into intervention programs, into treatment, because again, jail does not work. Treatment works for some people. The other thing that we've done that is probably, we'll see what I'm hoping is a more immediate short-term positive impact, is that in meetings with the jail staff, one of the things that they have implemented through oversight with fiscal courts, my understanding is that historically, of course, home incarceration is a really good way to monitor people in a community-based placement as opposed to in the jails. When you've got individuals that you are concerned are going to get out, reoffend, and the level of the reoffending ultimately creates a public safety risk. So, for example, someone that we would put on, that we would hold on pretrial detention based on simply public safety risk is someone that's charged with DUI fourth. Because a DUI fourth obviously is an indicator that somebody's got a significant drinking problem, and they're going to keep drinking and driving. And so that individual is someone that as long as we know that we're keeping them at home and keeping them off the streets, and so home incarceration has been an effective way to do that. With some of our assault cases, we've used home incarceration because, again, the concern being is that we mainly want to not only protect the alleged victim, but also give the alleged victim some semblance of safety, of well-being. So again, you have somebody on GPS monitoring that also promotes that goal. Historically, though, home incarceration has simply been cost prohibitive. That it has typically taken a deposit of anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to get somebody on home incarceration. Most time people got $1,000, they're going to get out of jail anyway. And so one of the things that the jail has implemented is basically putting people on home incarceration with no upfront money. Again, historically, that upfront money was used to as a deposit to secure the return of the equipment. The equipment that they're now using, we don't have as big an issue as we once had. It used to be, of course, they used to could just cut the bracelet off and bolt. They can't do that anymore. And so I think what you're going to see over the next, over the next 30, 60, 90 days, that we're going to move more people to the home incarceration program through GPS monitoring. And GPS monitoring is a very effective way. And of course, when you consider, the cost savings to the jail every day that they're not in jail is $25 to $30. That is a savings. Another program that the jail is initiating, recognizing that it does put more burden on the jail staff, because we'll start first with is that with GPS monitoring is that they've actually got jail staff that are monitoring those individuals. I mean, and as I said, and if they stick, if they are, the monitoring is so precise that if they are on a true home incarceration, which means they cannot leave their house without jail permission. And of course, to go to the doctor, to come to court, to see their lawyers and so forth. But literally, they can monitor to the point of if they step out into their street, to the front street, that monitor. But you got jail staff that are monitoring that. The other thing and of course, with home incarceration, it's not just the GPS monitoring, but they called in for random drug tests. If they are allowed to work release on home incarceration, then the jail is also monitoring them going back and forth to work. Another thing that we've initiated through, again, putting additional responsibility on jail staff is we are implementing a step-down version of home incarceration where, again, people that are not quite that high risk of public safety, but again, people that we've got concerns about reoffending, the jail has initiated a community release program. The community release program is where the individual is not placed on GPS monitoring, but they are subject to weekly call-in. They've got to verify their address and employment, and then they're subject to random drug testing. Historically, we did that through a monitored conditional release program through pretrial services, but pretrial services, again, because of funding issues, no longer has a drug testing provider in place, and so we can't do drug testing through them anymore. And so we basically shifted some of that some of that program over to jail staff. We are continuing to use the monitored conditional release program, but we're using that largely for people who are FTAs that they simply fail to appear because they don't keep up with court dates. Another thing that we're doing is that we are doing monthly reviews now with respect to our in-custody list, trying to monitor basically the number of our county inmates, and we're candidly taking a closer look at some individuals that otherwise we might not have been as creative, looking at creative solutions for finding an alternative placement for them to their current pretrial detention. We did have in place at one time through a community corrections grant an alternative placement coordinator that did some of the role of what the jail is doing now, which is including right now. What jail staff are doing is that we've implemented a streamlined process for people to be screened for Park Place. And so we've got an individual, again, you may have some, we minimize talking about simple possession, but oftentimes people come in and they are so impaired, they are so strung out on drugs that they are a risk to themselves. We oftentimes use the jail, the jail cell floor as a detox facility, which is unimaginable. But we're having to detox people before we can even get them into treatment. The jail staff are now screening those individuals, and as soon as they get a bed day, then we're moving them into treatment programs. And so, we're doing, we have implemented some additional measures to try to address what we recognize is a burden on county budgets, the same as it here as it is across the state and otherwise. But again, when you recognize that our jails and our prisons, they become our social safety net. The largest single provider of mental health services and substance abuse treatment in the state of Kentucky is the Department of Corrections. And Department of Corrections has got some programs in place that we're able to access at the pretrial level. We move a lot of, we've been moving several people into what we refer to as a PSAT program, where they actually go do 6 months of treatment in a behind-the-fence facility, paid for, again, by state tax dollars. Again, we sometimes make a big distinction between county state taxpayer dollars and state taxpayer dollars, and again, recognize that that we've just got, Jefferson County taxpayers sharing the love with some of the burden with respect to some of our state initiatives. But again, oftentimes, particularly it's getting cold, and I'll get a bail call, and it's like, well, have they got a home placement? No. It's like, and so where'd they sleep last night? On the streets. That's where they got picked up. And so, And so we find ourselves in the place of working with jail staff in terms of trying to find a placement for them, home placement, treatment placement for them. Oftentimes we're having to hold them until we can stabilize them medically or psychologically, even to try to get a placement for them. And so, I think that understanding, the role that ultimately criminal justice is been called upon to play with respect to addressing what is a systemic problem across our community, no different than every other community across this country, is that, there are a lot of drugs on our streets. We're a pipeline. We're on the pipeline between Nashville and Louisville. And, we get oftentimes, as I said, that they start with the end user in the effort to try to find, to move higher up the chain. And it's said that we treat the ones that we can, and the ones that we can't, we ultimately try to, deal with them as effectively as we can, Again, recognizing at the end of the day that we're all charged with the responsibility of doing our best to try to keep people safe. And I think the last thing that any of us would want is ultimately certainly the last thing that I would face is ultimately making that wrong decision with respect to a bail decision that ultimately results in putting the community at risk. That's sort of an overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, Magistrate Chandler and the rest of you, with respect to, how we can deal with this effectively. As I said, that we're continuing to look at resources, and candidly, at times what we're doing is the same thing that Department of Corrections does. Is when our jails and our prisons gets too full, we start looking at who can we release. With the numbers that we have right now, we just released a fair number of people because they had holds someplace else. Typically, if you've got a detainee out of Tennessee, we would keep you here until we got done with you, and then we'd send you to Tennessee. We've taken a look at it. It's like, well, maybe Tennessee wants it worse than we do right now. We'll catch up with them later. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Judge Crocker, I appreciate you coming to address the fiscal court on what's happening, what's taking place, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me some weeks ago. Obviously, the purpose that I went, the reason I went to talk, we're seeing that uptick in county inmates, which brings our state population down, which adversely affects the county budget. But I'll tell you, gentlemen, what I told her, what I've told the jailer, and what I've told the sheriff. I've told the sheriff I'd never asked the sheriff not to do his job. I would never ask the justice system not to do their job, and I would never ask the jail to operate in an unsafe or inhumane manner, and we just have a situation. But I appreciate you taking steps and measures that are common sense measures to help with the situation.
And I would be remiss in not also including the sheriff and the task force in the conversations that we've had. As I said, that the meeting that we had this past Friday, the task force was also attended that meeting as well.
Gentlemen, don't have any questions? No. Judge, we greatly appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have with us Census Partnership Specialist Julie Trevelyan, and she is here to get a proclamation on the upcoming 2020 census. Julie, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
We're glad to have you with us today. I'll read over this real quick. It says, whereas the 2020 Simpson County Census is quickly approaching and Simpson County and other local governments need to ensure a maximum response rate, and whereas Simpson County must count every resident in order to be fully represented in both the Kentucky General Assembly and the United States Congress, and whereas Simpson County needs to maximize census response rates among households in the county, as low response rates can result in undercounts of populations and affect congressional appointment and funding levels for local programs. And whereas local preparations for the 2020 census will include the Simpson County Complete Count Committee, a group of local elected officials and community leaders tasked to encourage all households to participate in the census, and now therefore be it proclaimed that Simpson County supports the Simpson County Complete Count Committee, who will be engaging in publicity, outreach, and educational efforts with community leaders in an effort to overcome cultural, economic, and linguistic barriers regarding to participating in the census. And be it further proclaimed that Simpson County Judge Executive Mason Barnes urges all local governments and citizens to fully prepare for and participate in planning for the 2020 census.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We appreciate your work. Julie's been down here to do,
That pretty much says it all.
Here we go. Julie's been down here, we've had, 3 or 4 complete count
Yes.
meetings.
Yep.
We're working on those. So we'll give you a few minutes if you want to say something about how important the census is.
Well, that pretty much says it all. The 2020 census is, the goal of the 2020 census is to get the word out that it's safe, it's easy, and important. It's safe because it's 100% confidential, as always. It's easy because for the first time ever, people can respond online. So we're hoping that by opening that channel of communication, more people will self-respond, so they won't have to worry about people coming and knock on their door. And it's important because it's about redistricting, it's about seats in the House of Representatives, but most importantly, to a lot of people, it's about $675 billion annually distributed to state and local officials, or state and local governments. So that $675 billion is based on population counts. So we want to be sure and count everybody in Kentucky. And that's why we started a complete count committee here in Simpson County, trusted voices in the community to go out and help us spread the word about the importance. And that money goes for every federal program you can think of. It's community development, it's roads, it's hospitals, it's schools, it's Head Start, it's Meals on Wheels, anything you can think of. So the goal is to spread the word, and we're happy to have anybody join us on the Complete Count Committee just to help us get the word about how important it is.
Gentlemen, you have any questions?
Look for it in March of 2020. We're going to send an invitation to your mailbox.
Julie, we appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have with us Matthew Hunt, the Executive Director. Oh, you got a question?
No, she left her dog.
Oh, okay.
Don't forget your proclamation.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have with us Matthew Hunt, the Executive Director of the Barren River District Health Department, and Ryan Wigington. I may get his title wrong, but the Chief Financial Officer. I figured you'd prefer that over Number Cruncher. But we're happy to have you guys with us today. It's kind of ironic. Later in the meeting, I'm going to discuss under my reports some things that concerning the health department that we kind of learned the week before last at the CAECO conference. And Matthew had asked several weeks before that. He's just trying to get, he's new. I'll let him tell how long he's been, but he's trying to get around to see all of the 8 counties in the Barren River region. And he had requested several weeks prior to the CAECO conference that he'd like to come and just meet everyone and kind of explain what the health department does. So Matthew, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Judge Barnes. Got a handout that's going to go through. Feels thick, but I think I can get through it in about 10 or 15 minutes. It's very informal, so if you all have questions, feel free to ask anything you might have. If you don't have the answer, I'll go back and find it. Judge Barton said, I'm new to the position, but not new to public health and health care. I served as the HR director for the Barren River District Health Department from 2008 to 12. Then I left for a 7-year hiatus and worked at Western Kentucky University in rural health care outreach. We had mobile units that would go into medically underserved areas. And during that time I was away from the health department, I served on the District Board of Health, much like Judge Barnes. And I'm from Butler County, born and raised there, and so I served on the Butler County Board of Health as well. So I've sort of seen it from both sides, as a staff member twice, now as the director, but also as a board member. And I think, I said to our staff, I think the biggest challenge that I will face, as well as Ryan, our finance officer, until we retire, is the Kentucky retirement system, hands down. That will be our biggest challenge. But I'm always up to a good challenge, and so with that being said, though, public health in the state is changing, not just at Barren River, but across the entire state. And so I appreciate this opportunity, Judge Barnes, to talk a little bit about what we do at the health department. As a kid, that's where I received my immunizations for school. Well, we still do that, but we do a whole lot more work outside of the walls of the health department than we do inside the walls of the health department. And so I will go through this presentation again, ask me any questions that you might have. We do serve 8 counties. We serve Barren, Butler, Edmondson, Hart, Logan, Metcalfe, Simpson, and Warren. And I'm only, I guess as a crow flies, I'm about 15 minutes from here. I get 73, come out South Union, Green Bends, and I can get to Franklin about 15 minutes from my house. So I've always been in a rural area, and I think it's very important to develop relationships. And so I'm going to make it around to all the fiscal court meetings. You probably won't see me every time, but I'd like to come at least a couple times a year and be part of your community. But second slide there you'll see is public health transformation. In the private sector, we would call this change of business model, but we've dressed it up a little bit across the state, and we call it public health transformation. And so that is sort of what we do at the health department. I know it's small letters, but small writing, but I'll get to each area. The foundational, that dark blue color there, is required by statute that we're required to do. The sort of the lighter blue is what we call core public health, and we're required to do that too. And everything else, if it doesn't fit into those 4 boxes, if you will, goes into the green box, and that's local priorities. And so, go on to the next slide there. Foundational public health services. Again, this is what we're required to do. Again, we do a lot more services outside the health department than we do inside the facility. The nice thing about public health, it impacts all of our lives in some facet. Population health, so what's that mean, right? Well, that means looking at chronic disease management, education in the community, doing a community health assessment, much like the census, trying to track data as it relates to population in counties. We track data as it relates to the health status of each community we serve. Enforcement and regulation, think about building a house. When we built the house, I got a septic tank inspection, got the permit, right? So we're involved in economic development, especially at the local level. We talk about construction projects. If I ask for a show of hands, I'm sure everyone's hands will go up as it relates to eating in the restaurant. We all eat out, right? I love to eat. I ate out this morning. I probably shouldn't. It's bad on my budget and waistline, but I like to eat, right? Well, we inspect all those restaurants. You go to your kids if they're in school. We've got 3 kiddos in school. We inspect the cafeteria at schools. Swimming pools and hotels, we do those inspections. Emergency preparedness. I see Bob's with us today. There he is in the back. We talked briefly this morning. Well, we do emergency planning. We assist the emergency management directors in each of our counties. Communicable disease. Think about STD control, tuberculosis, adult and child vaccinations. We do that. Then also the admin side is required too. So think about me and Ryan and his finance team, human resources. All those things are required. We have to have those things in place to operate. And so I will take a little deeper dive into each of these very briefly. And again, if you've got questions, stop me and I'll be glad to answer them. Population health. So what have we done in Simpson County? So this presentation is for Simpson County. Positive potential classes. It's an evidence-based curriculum, and it's age-appropriate subjects. We taught 207 7th graders in Simpson County about bullying, self-confidence, risky behavior tailored to the students as they grow and mature. Again, that's 7th grade students here in Simpson County. Reducing the risk classes. This is just last fiscal year, so July 1 of 18 to June of 19. We had several classes. Included 214 9th grade students in Simpson County. Evidence-based curriculum focused on building skills to prevent pregnancy and STDs and HIV. Again, that's here in Simpson County, making an impact in the school system. Diabetes self-management. We work ongoing with the medical providers in town and the county to let them know about our diabetes program we have to help people manage type 2 diabetes on a daily basis. And we do classes about every 6 months, and that's at the health department for that. On the next slide, we provided biometric screenings. I don't know if you all have part of your health insurance that requires you to get a health screening every year, get your blood drawn for your cholesterol, glucose, things of that nature. We did 333 screenings here in Simpson County for that. Tobacco and vaping education in the schools. We had 341 participants in those programs. And we also trained 6 child care providers with CPR. And having 3 kids, that's very important to me, is making sure the folks that are around our kids on a daily basis are trained medically and understand CPR. And you'll see some health fairs that we participated in last year. I won't read all those, but you'll see those sites. But also, we're involved in some boards and coalitions that I think are paramount to our success at the health department, but also are crucial and vital pieces of Simpson County. We chair the Butler Logan Simpson Agency for Substance Abuse. Judge Proctor talked about substance abuse and overcrowding in the jail facilities, but we focus on that in Simpson County as well. We serve on the FAIR team, which is the Family Accountability Intervention Response Team. We also serve on the Family Resource Coordinator Council with the middle and the high school in Franklin. And so moving along to, again, these are all mandated services by law that we offer. Again, this is sort of out of the scope of what you think, right? That's where you go for your shots. Yeah, we do that. We do much more. And so for the environmental inspections, that's called enforcement of regulations for you all that have built the house or that have remodeled. You know about this process. So that's all the services. You all have 196 establishments in Simpson County that we inspect. Some of those we inspect once a year, some twice a year based on the statute. So you think you got 114 sites in Simpson County where food is prepared. 26 sites in the county where packaged food is sold, and then the schools, the hotels, public swimming pools, tattoo facilities. So again, this is just for Simpson County. Of those 196 facilities, we inspected them 419 times last fiscal year, and so we are out in the field a lot. The next one is animal quarantines. That's one you don't want to see, right? Dog bites and things of that nature. We quarantined 35 animals last year in Simpson County. But overall, the total number of services, we completed 761 here in the county last year. Moving along to emergency preparedness, we assisted Bob, emergency management director, with active shooter tabletop exercise and a full-scale exercise last year. That included the government agencies, the schools, and the hospital. We also served on the local emergency planning committee and serve on and review the emergency plan for the support function 8, as you'll see on the slide here. So moving along, another required service is communicable disease. Think about disease spreading. We investigated and provided case management for 46 reportable diseases in Simpson County last fiscal year. We also managed 6 hepatitis A cases in the county. And we helped the nurse strike team from Frankfurt to immunize the inmates in the jail against hepatitis A. And then TB is a big one. A lot of people think that TB, we don't have that problem anymore, right? Well, I can tell you we spent about in the tune of $515,000 last fiscal year on TB control in our 8 counties. It's still a huge deal because it's very taxing on our employees. So you'll see there that we had 2 cases in Simpson County for tuberculosis. Doesn't seem like a lot, right? But we have to see how many people they've been in contact with, and we have to do what we call daily observed therapy. And that's where they take daily meds for 9 months to a year. We have to go to their house every single day to watch them take their medicine. That's required by statute. So those 3 patients were hitting the road every single day of the work week, that is, to go out to do those home visits to watch them take their medicine. It takes 30 seconds. And again, that's required by law, but it's a good thing, right? So we don't want that to spread in our communities in which we live and work. Next piece there is administrative infrastructure. Again, we talked about this. This is required by statute. You need to have a director. Nice thing about a district is you can pull all your resources together. So you just have one director, one finance officer, and the finance team. Our HR director does HR for the entire 8 counties, our IT infrastructure, as well as marketing. So again, those are required. That's what's called foundational. That's all we're going to receive money for going forward is foundational services and core services. Everything else, local tax dollars or grants. Core public health services, some of these you all might recognize. The WIC program, HANDS, and then harm reduction and substance use disorder. For the WIC program, I was, as a kid, growing up in Butler County, I was a recipient of WIC. My parents were. And so this is a nutritional assistance program for families, for children from birth to 5 years of age. And this is always astonishing to look at when you think about a supplemental nutritional program and the local impact. We're working with 424 families in Simpson County. We provided educational sessions for 1,200, almost 1,300 folks. So they come back a couple times a year. But look at that next bullet point there. That's money from the WIC program spent in Simpson County. $284,000 to the local economy of WIC dollars spent here in the county. The next one is the HANDS program. The HANDS program is, you think about what happens in early childhood, that matters for the entire life of that individual. And so we have a home visitation program for new or expected parents until the child turns 3. And so we focus on the health and development of the child. We focus on the parent and the child as it relates to family self-sufficiency and responsibility of the family. And so we've provided 137 of those home visits in the county last year. And just coincidence that Judge Proctor talked about substance use. Regardless of someone's race or ethnicity, someone's zip code, where they live, their income, we're all impacted by substance use in some fashion. It's either a family member we have, it's a neighbor or a friend, or we just know someone, right? This is a huge problem for the state of Kentucky. Again, it's not unique to Simpson County at all. We have this issue in all 8 counties, entire state. And so one thing we've done is create a substance use disorder response plan for all of our counties. And so we did that back in August, and that's to monitor overdoses to see if there's an uptick, and if there's an uptick in overdoses in each county, like why is this happening? And so we can investigate further. There's a lot more that we could do. Again, this is a core service. There's a lot more we could do in Simpson County if we had an approved harm reduction syringe exchange program in the county. That's a whole nother presentation I'd be glad to talk about. But very briefly, when I served on the board, Butler County Board and the District Board, the previous director, Dennis Cheney, brought this up. And I grew up in probably a little sheltered life, very conservative county where I live in Butler County. And I thought, well, why do we need a needle exchange? We don't have a drug problem in Butler County. I was completely wrong. But as I stayed on the board, Dennis brought this up in Warren County. I approved it. I was one of the board members that approved it for Warren County because it reduces opioid overdoses. It lowers the spread of HIV and Hep C. Hepatitis C, we lead the nation. We can do better. But it also links people to life-saving treatment resources, so we don't have the overcrowding in jails that Judge Proctor talked about. Keeps the needles off the streets and protects the entire community. I'm just going to give Butler County as an example. One of the meetings I've been into in my home county, the jail work release crew picked up over 300 used needles, or you can call them dirty needles or used needles, however you want to refer to those, on about a 1-mile stretch. And as a community, we can do better than that. And so in Warren and Barron counties, we've collected over 65,000 used needles, kept those off the streets, kept them off the playgrounds that my kids play on. And it helps the first responders as well. And individuals are 5 times more likely to enter treatment and recover from drug use than those not participating. Again, that's a totally different topic. I'll be glad to come and speak about that if you all want me to do that. But going on to our local priorities, we provided 1,400 immunizations to prevent disease in infants, children, and adults in Simpson County. We also provide 176 flu shots in the county. We have a dental services program. We go into the school system to provide exams, fluoride treatment, and sealants and extractions, minor extractions that is, for the kiddos in the school system. Again, those are local priorities. They're not required, they're nice, but again, they're more local priorities. Next slide there you'll see is public health challenges. There's just not enough money to go around. I know it sounds like a broken record when folks get up here. There's not enough funding to go around for the required services, what we call foundational services. Again, we're required to do the environmental inspections. They provided us about $900,000 less than we needed to do our environmental inspections last year. That's right, $900,000 less than we needed. For our communicable disease, think about tracking tuberculosis. The state provided us about $515,000 less than we needed. We got to make that up somehow, right? And so that's a huge expense for our agency. Another thing is the second bullet point there, and please don't lose focus on that one, is the skyrocketing employer contributions to the Kentucky retirement system. First and foremost, it's my priority to maintain the retirement system for our Tier 1 and Tier 2. This is the right thing to do for those individuals. But next year, if you all went to the KCO conference, you probably heard them speak about this. Next year, it's estimated that we'll spend 90% to 95% just on the employer side. I mean, break that down a little more. For every dollar we spend for someone per hour, we're going to spend another 90 to 95 cents per hour sending it to the retirement system. That's pretty hard to operate a business, right? When you're in the private sector and you're paying that much. That doesn't even include health insurance or dental insurance or life insurance, other benefits, right? Or FICA, and so it's Social Security. So our benefit factor next year is estimated it'll be around 125 to 130%. Every dollar per hour, that means $1.30 goes toward benefits. It's hard to operate any organization at a rate like that. Next thing is, you all may have heard this last week, or a couple weeks ago rather, at the KCO conference. There are only 5 counties out of our 120 counties in the Commonwealth without taxing districts. We've got 4 of those in Barren River. Again, 5 counties out of 120 that don't have taxing districts. Simpson County, Barren County, Metcalfe, and Hart counties don't. I live in Butler County. We've had a taxing district for probably 20 years. I like it because I can see that on my property taxes and I know where it's going. I'm just going to use myself as an example. In Butler, we've got the extension. I live on a 6th generation family farm. We utilize extension service frequently. We've got extension service on there, library, and health. I know what those tax dollars are going for. So again, only 5 counties in the state without one. The contribution going to the Barren River District for our operations is 2.25% of real property value. Again, 2.25%. If you have a taxing district, that would come from your taxing district. You just got a check from the taxing district to the health department. If not, it comes from your general fund. You all know this. Look at the budget. So you're thinking about a piece of a pie. 2.25% of that pie is already allocated for. 2.25% is what you all contribute to the health department, but the state average is 4.33%. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball there, and a tune of a little over 2% less than the state average. Again, I'm not, saying it has to be 4.33 next year or anything like that. I'm just saying just comparing numbers. 2.25 for Barren River, 4.33% for the entire state. That's the average. So again, that's sort of in a nutshell what we do at the health department. I know Judge Barnes and Manager Thurman probably hear a little more from me tomorrow at the Simpson County Board of Health meeting about the services. But again, think bigger than just the place to go get your immunizations to going back to school and things of that nature, get the flu shot. Hopefully you all seen that we do much more in the impact of the community, much more outside the walls of the facility than we do inside the walls of the health department. Do you have any questions from anyone about the services that we offer?
Any questions about the services?
No.
Good deal.
Matthew, we appreciate you. You're going to hang out here with us for a little while.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on. Is there any public comment? Move on to regular business. Gentlemen, you've had an opportunity. Some of the things you reviewed, you might have had to lay down sideways, but you had an opportunity to review most everything. Some of it, we had a glitch, and some of it wouldn't flip for us, but we got to see it at any rate. If you had an opportunity to review the minutes of the October 15th regular fiscal court meeting, I need a motion and a second to approve those minutes, please.
Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Myron,
Yes.
Nathaniel Denham,
Yes.
Martin Chandler,
Yes.
Scott Postle,
Yes.
Mason Lloyd.
Yes. Also, gentlemen, in the agenda, had an opportunity to review the minutes of the October 30th special called meeting. If there's no changes or corrections, I'd need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
Motion.
Motion by Scott,
Second.
Second by Myron.
Scott Huston.
Yes.
Myron Burney.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Mason Bond.
Yes. Next on the agenda, gentlemen, is to review or approve the second reading and final passage of ordinance number 920.110. It's the planning and zoning fees and inspection jurisdiction. We had the first reading, I guess, at our last meeting or the meeting prior to that, I don't recall, but this is setting fees and establishing a jurisdiction to have local authority to review, do plan review, and establishing the fees to do such. As we talked about before, the fee structure here would be absolutely no different than the fee structure at the state, but it would cause the folks that are applying for the permits the ability to be approved in 2 to 3 weeks' time rather than 2 to 3 months' time. And it would also honestly be a revenue producer to some degree. There's no questions.
Somebody.
There we go. Marty made the motion. Scott second.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Scott Huston.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing.
Yes.
Myron Burney.
Yes.
Mason Bond.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the first reading of fiscal year 1920 budget amendment number 3, and it's ordinance number 220.210. If you see on your iPad, we're amending in some grant monies from a couple of grants that total $17,200 that have to be amended into the budget.
What are these?
The Homeland Security is for a generator
Okay.
that we got, and the sheriff just walked out, but I'm not.
There he is. Back.
Oh, he's back. The community grant, I'll let the sheriff explain what that is.
There are 2 grants that I have. One, Walmart gives a grant out that we applied for and received. It's $3,500. We've actually received the check on that. What I'm asking is for y'all to direct that to $3,500 into my line item so that we can purchase out of it. We need to upgrade some computers that we've got. We're slowly starting to put some computers into our vehicles, and that's what we're using that money for. That's the only reason they gave it to us, was to be directed for that. For me to be able to spend it, because I turn my money over to y'all, y'all have to say, yeah, we'll put it in your line item. The second one, I think it's $1,400, it's $1,400, $1,500. We hadn't actually got it. We've applied to, it's called ASAP. They give little mini grants. They have to be generally something drug related, alcohol related, nicotine related. And we've applied for $1,500 to buy pre-test breath like you use for DUIs and things like that. And we've been approved on the local level, but we've got to wait to hear from the state. But since we're doing it, same thing, if we get it and they give us that money, for it to go in my line item and be able to buy it.
I just seen the Walmart. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's something a little different, something nice Walmart does, you can apply for, and we happened to apply and just, they gave us $3,500.
Sheriff, if you don't mind, just hang out up here for a minute.
Yes.
All right. But that's what the $3,500 grant and the $13,700 grant, we just need by ordinance to amend that into the fiscal year budget.
Make a motion. Second.
Scott made a motion, Nate second. Any discussion, questions?
Scott Huston.
Yes.
Nathaniel Downing.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Myron Burney.
Yes.
Mason Bond.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda is to review and approve the sheriff's bond rider in the increase during the tax collection season, and I think that runs through June.
April 15th.
Through April 15th, okay.
It's a 3-month.
It says first day of January.
I thought it was January something, actually, from,
It says first day of October 19th through the first day of January. I mean,
Yeah.
he has a bond that is in place that whole year. The increase in rider, I mean, my understanding is just a 3-month increase.
right, I said June, I meant to say January.
Well,
I think
April 15th is when tax season ends.
But
You
this,
probably only need the additional,
this
you
increase,
probably only need the additional bonding. October, November, and December are the busiest
Right.
months for tax time.
right,
For instance, we had a $3 million day, which has never been done in a single day in October. However, 77% of our taxes have now been collected just in the month of October, which will say November will be a little less. By the end of December, the bulk of, so the regular bond is sufficient after that.
Okay.
I think this is something we do every year.
so we do have to have a motion in a second.
Motion. All right, Nate.
I heard Nate first, so Nate made the motion, Myron second.
Nathaniel Bailey,
Yes.
Myron Kirkland.
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Martin Chandler.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. And next is Sheriff Department grants, but you may have already addressed that. Sheriff, do you have more to say about
No,
that? Okay.
that was it. I'm sorry, I thought that's where we were at a minute ago.
Yep, but we're good then.
Yes.
There's no motion to be made about the grants. I mean, you just,
As long as Nicole says it goes into my line item, I've addressed the 2 grants.
okay, all right, very
The
good.
other grant, once we receive that approval and get that check, then we can make that amendment as well, but until then, we can't.
All right, next gentleman under financial business, and these are the ones where you had to lay sideways to see. We have to, actually, we've got 2 here. I don't think one is just one. Hold on. Here, if you've had an opportunity to review the budget transfers, we just need a motion and a second to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Myron Kirkland.
Yes.
Nathaniel Bailey.
Yes.
Martin Chandler.
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Nicole, this one here is not in the agenda, correct?
Right, if they, but we have to.
We had to add this. We have one other budget transfer, a cash transfer from the general fund to the jail in the amount of $67,000 to cover payroll. I don't think you guys have a copy of it. I mean, it's just a cash transfer from, oh, okay, so everyone did get one. So we would have to have a motion and a second to approve that cash transfer.
Motion moved.
Motion by Nate,
Second.
second by Myron.
Nathaniel Bailey.
Yes.
Myron Kirkland.
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Martin Chandler.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. Pam, thank you for getting those copies to us. Next, gentlemen, the bills and claims. If you've had an opportunity to review those, we'd need a motion and a second to approve the bills and claims.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Myron, second by Nate.
Myron Kirkland.
Yes.
Nathaniel Bailey.
Yes.
Martin Chandler.
Yes.
Scott Poston.
Yes.
Mason Barnes.
Yes. All right, moving on into reports. Gentlemen, I'm going to pass down some papers this way.
We didn't really the CD.
Do what?
Did we do the CD?
Y'all already voted last time.
Okay.
Yeah, we voted, and we did, it stayed at the same place.
Okay.
Yes. All right, what I want to discuss just a minute, and like I said, wasn't, week before last, we're at CAECO, and this one slide, this was a slide presentation in one of the courses at CAECO, or one of the sessions, and if you drop down to the health line, you see that the average rate, Matt had put in his report 4.3. According to CAECO's number, the average is 4.7, with the minimum rate being 1.9. here's the tough thing, and I think, well, I know Scott was sitting beside me in the session, and I don't know who else was in this session that heard this, but I put together a little note, and I'm going to read over most of this. It's in there. Most of you heard at the CAECO conference week before last that we should expect a dramatic increase in the retirement contribution rate for health department employees. The rate proposed last year that we received a one-year reprieve on was about 84%. The talk now is that beginning with the next fiscal year, after the legislative session begins in January, to expect that rate to be 90% or higher. And the current rate, and Ryan, you can correct this if it's wrong, but the current rate is about 47%. 49, okay. So that's, I'm incorrect there. You can change that 47 to 49. Here's the thing, if this increase does take place, the financial liability to our health departments will no doubt increase. Our current property tax rate is 10.3 cents per $100 of assessed property value. Of that rate, 2.25 cents goes directly to funding the health department, leaving us with an effective operating tax rate for the general fund of 8.05 cents.